Hi, it's Adam, the geneticist and genomic data scientist from Verdure Healthcare. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I'm going to give you a very special talk on NiPT, Non-invasive Prenatal Test. Now, I know that some of you might have already heard of this test before, but I am quite surprised to find that even in England, such a well-educated country, there are still many confusions, doubts, and misunderstanding about this test. Alright, so I am very honored to be invited to be one of the consultants and advisors in the Nuffield Council on Bioethics. Bioethic, on the other hand, can mean medical ethics. So, it is a very comprehensive platform to comment about medical practices and how they act ethically. So today I'm going to be focusing on NiPT, and in fact I will be using some of the questions and answers from the forum to answer you and also to help you take away some of your doubts and worries. Alright, so I found one of the blogs whereby there is a participant by the name of Tanya. She asked quite a long question. Alright, so as you can see, this is a very long paragraph and this was the page. So you can go to Google and search up Nuffield Council on Bioethics and you'll be able to find the relevant columns in NiPT. So scroll down to the forum section and you'll be able to see me answering their questions. Alright, so let me focus on her question, and I'll be able to dissect it for you so that you will get a much better understanding about NiPT. So Tanya says, "Hi all, I am 15 weeks, that means 15 weeks pregnant, got the call about our NT scan at 13 weeks saying I am high risk 1/21 chance for tri-21, meaning there is a good chance of getting trisomy 21. BUB, B-U-B, which is a slang in England for baby, had present nasal bone, but NT fluid was 3.1 mm. My blood shows 0.48 for PAPPA and free BHCG 1.98. I had a genetic counselor app and they gave me not much hope at all. They said that my blood results should be similar number, but those two numbers aren't even close together to each other. Confused me, I'm 24 years old and already have previously healthy babies, so this shocked us like you wouldn't believe. I can't sleep at night and I'm so stressed researching and reading. We rushed to do the Harmony test. Now, Harmony test is actually a company providing NiPT tests. They are so famous in England that it is almost like Tupperware for food containers. Right, so Harmony test, which is pending results, so she's waiting for the results to come. It should be back in a week's time, which I'm also booked in for an amnio. Amnio is the amniocentesis. I know the risk of MC, miscarriage, but I personally would like an answer to know how to move forward. Even though we only show risk for tri-21, the counselors starting freaking me out about other things they could find from the amnio. I am really hoping for some comfort or a story like mine that ended positive. Are anti-bloods and scans false sometimes? 1/21 seems like such a bad odds at my age. The bub, the baby, looks perfect in the scan. Alright, so this is a vital information besides the fluid. Please help, this is the hardest thing I've ever gone through. How can you enjoy a pregnancy when it's full of scares and it doesn't seem like it's ending soon, and it will be more ultrasounds and checkups the whole way through, even if the results come back good. Alright, so as you can see, she's a very concerning mother. She had already had a previous pregnancy, and her age, 24 years old, is almost the perfect age for getting pregnant. So there is a lot of worries, okay? So let me answer this question. Okay, in fact, I have already done so on the forum. So my name is Adam Geneticist on this on this platform. And as you can see, I have used 3 paragraphs to answer her deep concerns. Okay, so once she has got this worry, or once you have this worry, it is extremely difficult to reverse it. Okay, let me break things down a little bit. First of all, what is an NT scan? And afterwards, I would be answering what is PAPPA, what is BHCG, and then I will talk about why NiPT test is more accurate, what should an NiPT test include. Okay, and then lastly, genetic counselor app. Are they useful? Okay, if not, why are they not useful? And also, what qualifications should a genetic specialist have? Okay, so I'll be using today's session and answer those 5 things. So first of all, what exactly is an NT scan? Okay, so an NT scan, it can be called the nuchal scan or nuchal translucency or a scan procedure. So it is an ultrasound scan, okay, to detect the chromosomal abnormalities in the fetus. All right, so as you can see, this is the ultrasound picture. All right, but since why is it being used to detect chromosomal abnormalities? It is because sometimes chromosomal abnormalities can impair cardiovascular development. All right, I'll go into that a little bit, but you need to remember, often if there is something wrong with the chromosome, it will affect cardiovascular development. Okay, so this NT test is used as a screening tool to detect something like Down syndrome, Patel syndrome, or Edwards syndrome, which I'll explain in detail in a while. Okay, so all you need to remember is that the NT scan is an ultrasound scan. Right, so there are actually 2 distinctive measurements. Okay, 2 distinctive measurements. One is the size of the NT. All right, the size of the NT. And the second one is the thickness. Okay, the thickness of the nuchal fold. All right, so this is the size, and then this is the thickness. All right, so as you can see, the NT tube is actually right behind the baby's neck, like that. Okay, there you go. Right, so usually the size of the NT tube, all right, is assessed, okay, by the end of the 1st trimester, and also between 11th week, 3 days, and also 13th week, 6 days during the pregnancy or gestation. All right, okay, but so this is the size measuring, but the thickness is measured towards the end of the 2nd trimester. Right. Okay, so here's the thing. So now you get the basics of NT scan. I know it's a little bit complicated because even obstetricians and gynecologists, they need special training in order to understand NT scans. So it is not a strange phenomenon that you don't get it the first time. So as the NT size actually increases, the chance of getting a chromosomal abnormality and even mortality, or mortality can mean death rate, actually increases. All right, so according to what the research says here, because honestly this is not my research, I am actually using some other people's information and I'm sharing them with you. So, and I'll put my own analysis in a while. So 65% of the largest transculencies, meaning more than 6.5 mm, are due to chromosomal abnormality. All right, now this is only a prediction, okay? While fatality is 19% at this size, okay? So if the baby has a tube longer than 6.5 millimeters, then the fatality rate is about 19%, okay? And that is due to chromosomal abnormality. But here's the thing, because what is the nature of this scan, all right? It's ultrasound, right? So ultrasound often can actually be misread. Okay, that's one thing. But sometimes the picture, the quality of the picture can be inconsistent, I should say. So that is why there is an accuracy of only 70%. Okay, around 70%. And it still depends on what reference that you're used to in measuring the antitube, either the thickness or the length. Okay, so if you do have any questions about anti-scans, so please do that. Please do ask us in the comment section, all right? And I'll be trying my best to answer you. So that was anti-scan. Now, here's the second question that we are going to break down. What is PAPPA? Okay, I know guys, there are a lot of medical terms here, but you need to know it because one day when you get pregnant, these are the tests that you will be doing as well. And you need to know what are the limitations so that you wouldn't be scared like Tanya did when the result actually comes out not in your favor. There are actually things that you can do about it. So PAPPA, it's called Pregnancy Associated Plasma Protein A. Okay, pregnancy associated plasma protein A. So it is a protein basically being produced by the placenta. All right, so what is this for? It is needed for the implantation process, meaning to say that, okay, when the embryo gets implanted, all right, so it is the implantation process that is that this protein is needed, and to maintain a healthy placenta. Okay. PAPPA is also a marker being used as one of the combined pregnancy tests, for example, PAPPA, along with the anti-scan, okay? All right, so which is usually offered from around 11 to 14 weeks of pregnancy. So this is the time frame. Okay, so PAPPA, when is it considered to be abnormal? So usually we want to know if it is lower than the normal range. So it is considered to be low when it is equivalent or lower than 0.41. Okay, if you can recall just now what Tanya had was 0.19. Okay, so low PAPP may be associated with, now, okay, please do pay a little bit more attention, low birth weight. Okay, so as it might indicate that the placenta may not be working as well as it should be. All right, so it can cause lower birth weight. An increase in chance of having an early birth, all right, and also increased chance of developing high blood pressure during pregnancies, or it's called the preeclampsia. Okay, so all of these indications are more pointed towards the health of the baby, not exactly pointed at the chromosomal health, but the overall health, including the mother and also the baby. So judging from this, PAPPA itself cannot be used to judge whether or not this baby is having a chromosomal abnormality. Even some doctors or some or health organizations do use it to detect chromosomal abnormality. It will be very indirect. Okay? Right. Next thing, okay? And the final medical term that we're going to go through, 3-BHCG. All right, so just now it is pregnancy-associated protein, but now here's the thing, the B stands for beta, all right? Beta, what is HCG? It is the human, all right, stands for H, chorionic gonadotrophin, all right? So HCG in the blood. And it is also a hormone made by the placenta, all right? So this hormone is produced as soon as 10 days during the pregnancy, and above the normal level, okay, which I'll show you a table later on, above the normal level, it can indicate a pregnancy. So some of you might have already, heard of this hormone before. Okay, when your HCG has exceeded a certain level, oh, it means you're pregnant, congratulations. And usually IVF doctors, they would use this particular hormone to confirm whether you're pregnant or not. All right, so here's the picture. Okay, so here's the table, sorry. So this is the time since last period, all right? And then HCG range if pregnant. So 3 weeks, okay? If you're pregnant, then it should be around 5 to 72 ml. Okay, so for example, if let's say you are already at 12 weeks of pregnancy, which is the suitable time to do the PAPPA and also the anti-scan, it should be around this figure, 27,000 to 200,000, something like that. Okay, so it is actually an indicator to measure how likely are you in terms of getting pregnant, especially during early pregnancy. Right, okay, remember this is very important. Whether or not you have a high or low level of the hormone, it is not exactly an indicator of a healthy pregnancy. So as you can see just now, I have used, all right, let's go back to the table just now. 12 weeks, the range can differ significantly. 27,000 to 200,000. So even for example, if you are at 210,000, it doesn't really mean that you are having a healthy babies and that you can let go all of your worries. It doesn't really say this. On the other hand, if you have 80,000 by the time you are 12 weeks during the gestation, it doesn't necessarily mean that you are having a bad or a baby with a chromosomal abnormality. All right, because there are many factors that can affect the HCG, such as, for example, if you smoke during maternity, body mass index, for example, if you are having, an overweight or underweight during the time, ethnicity and genetic profile of the mother can also affect the beta HCG. So all of these things can also affect beta HCG. So as you can see, they do not necessarily mean that even though if you get a high or low HCG during the specific week, it doesn't necessarily mean that the baby is having chromosomal abnormality. All right. So usually doctors instead they look to see if HCG levels double every 48 to 72 hours. Okay, from whenever they are starting to measure it. So they look for this in the initial weeks of the pregnancy, and it is very normal for it to peak at around 8 to 11 weeks of the gestation, and then they will level off and sometimes even decrease a little bit afterwards. Okay, usually they will level off. Alright, so now here's the main question. So just now, all of those are either, anti-scan is an ultrasound scan, PAPPA, and then beta HCG. They are just hormone tests, or more professional terms would be biochemical tests. So in that case, can they actually be a confirmation test on whether or not your baby is getting Down syndrome, for example? No, they cannot, because even if all three add together and all three somehow indicate that there is high chance of Down syndrome, the accuracy can only be at around 70 to 80% maximum, all right? And there is a whole lot of chances for it to be a false positive. So the more accurate would be the non-invasive prenatal test. Why? Because this test actually measures or tests the genes in your baby, and genes don't lie. But anyhow, what should an NiPT test include? First of all, we need to measure, or we need to screen for all 23 pairs of chromosome in the baby. All right, and we specifically look for Down syndrome, Edwards syndrome, Maternal syndrome. This is the bare minimum, okay, the bare minimum. Usually, we do have now clinics starting to offer, okay, for example, Down syndrome is trisomy 21, Edwards syndrome is trisomy 18, and then Maternal syndrome is trisomy 13, and now we have trisomy 22, all right, trisomy 9, trisomy 16. All right, so these are more rare chromosome abnormalities, and by now, at least during the moment we speak, hospitals should be offering an additional 3. So 3 plus these 3 would be 6, okay, chromosomal abnormalities. But at Verdure Healthcare, we screen all 23 chromosomes. Now, okay guys, if you are not very familiar with the term chromosomes, I would strongly recommend you to have a look at my introductory video and where I'll be explaining some background knowledge about genetic tests. So it's very important before before you move forward, please have a look at those videos. Okay, so this is part 1 only, and part 2, we will be looking at sex chromosome abnormalities, all right? So usually for a normal girl, she will be having X chromosome and another X chromosome. But for guys, it will be X and a Y. So we'll be looking at these chromosomes to see if they have any abnormalities. And number 3, okay, so all of these are looking at chromosome, but how about the small details in the chromosome, which is the DNA? Because DNA, when they are packed together, it becomes chromosome, so we need to look at specific diseases. At Verdure Healthcare, we have 84 Asia's most common genetic diseases, all right? So that's a very advanced test that we are offering. So here's the genetic profile of a person. So as you can see, from the first pair of chromosome all the way to the 23rd pair of chromosome. So from 1 to 22, all right, so these are called the autosomes, whereby they should share the same length, they should have the exact same pattern, despite half of them come from dad and another half comes from mom. So this is a guy because he has an X chromosome and a Y chromosome. So for example, if there is Down syndrome, as you can see on the 21st pair, there is an extra piece over here. So that is called trisomy. Tri means 3. For Edwards syndrome, on the 18th pair, there is an extra piece. And out of everything else, it is normal. So it is extremely precise in order to make a healthy baby. Okay, and then Patel syndrome, on the 13th pair, there is an extra piece. So this would be the most basic diseases that an NiPT test should offer, but it is getting old school if, let's say, they are offering only these 3. At Verdure Healthcare, we are offering all 23 chromosome checks. So here's the risk. I'm not sure whether you can see the details of the graph, but if you can, it's okay. This is the risk from 0% to 14%. And then on this horizontal line over here, that is the maternal age. So for red line, okay, we combine the risk of the 3 diseases, Down syndrome, Patel, and Edwards syndrome together to explore what is the likelihood of a baby getting one of those diseases when the mother is at a certain maternal age. So this is 30 years old, okay? Before 30 years old, there is almost 0% chance of the baby getting either one of those diseases. But as soon as the mother moves on from 35 years old, or when she gets pregnant older than that, there will be a significant increase in terms of the risks. So if we go to the extreme end, this is 49 years old. So every 1 in 8 babies will be getting one of the diseases we just talked about, Patel, Down syndrome, or Edwards syndrome. But if we only look at this blue line over here, which is the Down syndrome, so in groups of mothers with age of 49, every 1 in 11 babies would be getting Down syndrome, all right? So Tanya, the lady who asked the question, was 24 years old. So supposedly there should be low risk, okay? But however, though, her anti-scans and all her blood tests indicated otherwise. But so, okay, using this method, because we are checking on the chromosome, we will know the baby's gender. So what gender do you prefer? Please do let me know. All right, and okay, since we know their genders, we will also be able to see if they are having chromosomal and sex chromosome aneuploidies. So for example, XXY, it means that this boy, he was born with an extra piece of Y chromosome. And there is a name for it, it's called the Klinefelter syndrome. Usually the guys born with this particular disease or syndrome, they will be more feminine, okay? However, the result was that there is sexual immaturity. For example, he cannot produce sperm cells or breast swelling, okay? XYY is the Jacob syndrome. So usually this boy would be extremely tall, would be abnormally tall, okay, and then he might be having brittle bones as well. And the likelihood is, because these are sex chromosome aneuploidies, he will most likely also have sexual immaturity. Okay, how about the girls? Okay, the most common ones would be XXX syndrome, so triple X, supposedly only 2X, but now there's another piece. So this girl would be very tall and thin, then very often she would suffer from menstrual irregularity, all right, and resulting in infertility as well. And then XO, meaning that she is lacking of one complete piece of X chromosome. So this is Turner syndrome, whereby feature on the outside feature would be very short stature, webbed neck, and sexually undeveloped. All right. So according to some accounts, all right, sexual underdevelopment can be so serious to an extent where she is lacking of the most superficial reproductive organs. All right, but that is more on the serious end. But anyway, we have came across quite a few of these clients before, and we ended up sending them to IVF, and then we did the embryo genetic selection. They ended up with healthy babies as well. But anyway, so now we are moving on to microdeletions, whereby imagine this is the chromosome. If let's say there is a small chunk, just a very small piece of genetic material being either missing or duplicated, then there will be a problem. So that is why we have gathered 84 microdeletions that are most commonly happening in the Asian Pacific region, so that your baby would also be tested for it. Okay, 84, that's quite a lot. All right, so some of the diseases might include Wilson syndrome, cry-to-cat syndrome, thalassemia, and etc., etc. So if you are interested to know more about this, please do let me know, and we'll be able to provide you with a full consultation. Right, so how does NiPT work? Okay, the moment you got pregnant, all right, so the placenta has been implanted strongly, and then whatever you eat, okay, or whatever nutrition that you're absorbing would go to the baby by the placenta and also the umbilical cord. So through this way, the baby will also exchange some waste products back to you so that you can excrete it for the baby. Anyway, so using this method, there will be some leftover DNA, or sometimes called the free-floating DNA, in the mother's blood. So after the 10th week of pregnancy, we can actually draw blood from the mother's arm over here, just this vein over here, and only 10 milliliters is needed, okay, just about this much. And then we'll be able to separate between fetal DNA and maternal DNA so that we can run the test with the subjects that should be tested just now. Alright, so no more needles on mommy's tummy, because the old method is the amniocentesis, alright, or in Mandarin it's called 羊胎水检验. So now, the thing is that with this particular test, it is quite risky. So just now, Tanya, she has also mentioned that she knows the risk of MC. MC is miscarriage, because the baby is here. The doctor is using the ultrasound scanner, all right, to look for a space where he can literally put the needle and poke into the sac over here to draw the amniotic fluid. All right. So the amniotic fluid is of course full of the baby's DNA, but imagine what happens if the baby moves or kicks or turns around, whatever he wants to do, he might be hurt by the needle. All right, so no matter how, there is still a 3% miscarriage rate. Some people would say that, okay, 3% is not much of a big deal, but there are a majority of people that says, oh no, Adam, I'm not going to take this risk. So that is why I would highly recommend them to do the non-invasive prenatal test, and touch wood, if let's say, for example, NiPT indicates a high risk for Down syndrome, okay, then on the second stage, we will be asking them to do amniocentesis. But at least the value of the NiPT is that you don't have to solely rely on biochemical tests like the PAPPA or the beta HCG along with anti-tube scan. These are often called the try-tests during the early pregnancy, and based on those results, when it actually scares you, you have to go directly to amniocentesis. So with NiPT, you don't really have to go through all these kinds of unpleasant feelings. All right, so the last thing I want to talk about is the Genetic Counselor app. Are they useful? All right, and what qualifications should a genetic specialist have? All right, so okay, this is one of the Genetic Counselors app. All right, so what Tanya has said just now was that, okay, where is it? I had a Genetic Counselor app and they gave me not much hope at all. They said that my blood results should be similar number, but those two numbers aren't even close to each other. Confused me. Now, after understanding what's the nature of the PAPPA and also the beta HCG, friends, you tell me, should the numbers be similar or should they not be? All right, write that into the comment section below. Okay, so now, honestly, Genetic Counselors app, they can often do more harm than good because they might not know your case thoroughly, and sometimes they might not even be allowed to comment on other tests. Okay, genetic counselors, they are supposed to focus on the genetic test itself, explain to you what the test is doing, just like what I have been doing just now, explaining to you about NiPT test, and also when the results come out, they will share with you what those reports are indicating. They are not supposed to comment on other stuff, all right? But anyway, if you do want to expand on your jurisdiction, then you should also, besides genetic knowledge, you should also have other qualifications. So like myself, for example, I am a medical scientist or technician, so-called. So I have 2 professional qualifications from Tsinghua University as my medical knowledge base. One is the histology, all right, histology certificate. So histology is actually a study of the tissue structures in humans, all right? And furthermore, the second qualification is pathology, all right? Also from Tsinghua University. Pathology is a study of the origins of a disease and how it happens, okay? And I've also extended my studies to Peking University or University of Beijing in pathophysiology. It studies when somebody gets sick or when something goes haywire in your organs, how would that affect you overall? Okay, and furthermore, surgeons of England with their postgraduate certificate in surgery. So in fact, I am qualified as a surgical instructor. So all of these are my medical base. But of course, more directly would be a doctor, okay? Except that I am a medical scientist. So some people who decide to go into genetics, they might be doctors or even nurses, all right? So, but these are only foundational knowledge. If you want to serve people in genetics, you need to be further qualified. Okay, so I've got the certification from Stanford Medicine with their renowned Stanford Genetics and Genomics Certificate of Achievement. All right, so I'm certified by them as a geneticist. But okay, even if you're certified as a geneticist, that doesn't mean you can, talk to people about genetic tests, because a geneticist can be within the lab. It can be, changing some genes in animals or plants, making a papaya sweeter. That is also a geneticist. It doesn't mean that you can talk to people about genetic tests. So in order to offer an NiPT test, you need to be further qualified, again, in genetics, whereby I've received the certification from Harvard Medical School for genetic testing and sequencing technologies. So afterwards, okay, that's not the end, because genetic tests often produce a huge amount of data, especially when you're testing for the DNA inside the chromosome. And how are you going to sort out those bunch of data and make them into a useful report? Genomic data science. On the other word, that will be next generation sequencing data scientist. All right? Okay, for goodness sake, genomic data scientist for short. So even within the areas of genetics, you need to be qualified on 3 levels. That is on top of your foundational qualification, either if you're like me, medical scientist, or doctor, or nurses, or whatever medical field that you're working on. So if you are going through a genetic counselor app, they would often say that they have some healthcare professionals trained in genetics, but are they qualified like they are supposed to be? All right, so that's a good question that you need to think about. And even then, okay, even with all those genetic qualifications, and because we are offering NiPT, and NiPT is supposed to be under the category of obstetrics and gynecology, all right? You need to be further qualified in that field, okay? So with that, we have been qualified by the American Society of Reproductive Medicine, and they are granting a membership for me, or for us, okay? And we have to renew this on a yearly basis. You have to have good research, and you need to pass an exam every year, okay? So only then we are able to comment on NT scans, or we are able to comment on PAPPA, beta HCG, and all of those first trimester tests. Okay, only then we are able to combine that with NiPT and explain to you the whole situation, and also whether or not do we recommend you to keep the pregnancy should anything happen. All right, so that is all the qualification that is needed. And the second thing, okay, to be considered about NiPT test as well, what is the qualification of the lab? Okay, the lab who is the facility that is testing your genes. With that, we are working with DNA Lab from Malaysia. It's based in Selangor, whereby they have been in here for many, many years. So as you can see, the qualifications, the awards, accreditation, is just too many to put on this slide. And we, Verdure Healthcare, we have been in here for 18 years already. We have seen many, many cases whereby the NT-test indicates a high risk, but in actual fact, it is actually low risk, okay? And that is indicated by the NiPT test. So furthermore, we have been winning quite a number of awards, and especially I want to say a big thank you to everyone, because we have been awarded with the Reader's Choice Award 2021, and this is a consumer voted and elected award. So we have been receiving this in the fertility category, and we would love to thank you so much, because this award is given by Baby Talk Mama Papa magazine, which is a huge media in parenting topics. And furthermore, on the same year, we have also achieved super brand status. And super brand is given by England, by the UK, and in the judge panel, they have 3,000 judges, and that is really something that we are proud to achieve, and we hope to use this, status to serve you to the best we can. All right, and so that would conclude today's session, and I thank you so much for listening and paying your attention to me today. And if you're already at around 10 weeks of pregnancy or gestation, please do give us a call. We would love to hear from you. Let me personally counsel you on NiPT. Let me tell you further more details about this particular test, or if you are having some questions or doubt about your existing NT scans, PAPPA tests, or beta HCG results, then you can book an appointment with us, so that beside me talking about NiPT to you, counseling you about this test, I can also help you analyze the report. So with that, I thank you so much. This video will be put on our YouTube channel. Please do like and subscribe to it so that we can provide you with the latest news, and kindly share this video to your friends and families who are in need. Thank you very much, and next time we will resume our talk in chromosome 10. See you next time.